Okay, this is English 201, week 4, part 6. Um, all right. So, and again, like Gregor's insistence on treating everything as if it were normal. So he says, well, maybe if I go out and show them that I'm a bug, if they're shocked and upset by this, then I'll be able to relax. He says, if they were shocked, then it would no longer be Gregor's responsibility and he could rest. If, however, they took everything calmly, he would still have no reason to be upset. If he hurried, he really could be at the station for 8 o'clock. So, like, it's interesting that, like, he doesn't, like in a dream, he's like, well, if they're upset, about how if they think it's crazy I've been turned into a bug, then I can just go back to bed, and everyone will forgive me because it's crazy. But if they act like everything's normal, I can make that train definitely. Um, Again, his reactions are strange. We wouldn't react like this, but it's very dreamlike to kind of be like, well, I don't know what to do with this. Maybe I'm sure you can imagine having nightmares like this. Um, and they don't understand what he's saying. Okay, the chief clerk says that is the. He tries to speak to them, and the chief clerk says that is the voice of an animal. Um, one of the ways of thinking about what's happened to Gregor is that he has degenerated. He's gone back steps in evolution. He's become an animal or a bug or something. He's like you think of evolution as when you sort of become more advanced, but he's devolved in the other direction into something more primal. Um, okay, let's see what else I got here. Turn the page. I'm on page 5 now. Okay. Um, when they finally see him, there's again, it's not super funny, but if you can get in the right headspace, it's kind of funny. The chief clerk, when they sees him, he puts his hand in his mouth and he holds his hand out like this, and he backs away from Gregor the bug, and he tries to run away. Um, and freaks out. And it's funny. Like it's not again, this is a depressing story. It has a really sad ending, but like it's a little bit funny the way that the clerk has been very like, this is all your fault and you need to get out of here and get to work. And then as soon as he sees him, he's like, oh, and he runs away. Irony. Why is it irony? Because he was being so tough and commanding, and the split second he sees what's really going on, he runs away like a scared child, and completely freaks out. So that's irony. That's funny. Um, so yeah, and we have there's a photograph of Gregor when he was in the army and he was carefree and happy. It seems like he was happier before he took this terrible traveling salesman job, which he did because his family needed him, to sort of pay the bills. Um, Again, he says he says I'm gonna get dressed. I'll be with you in a minute. Um, he says it's quite possible for someone to be temporarily unable to work, but that's just the right time to remember what's been achieved in the past and consider that later on. Once the difficulty has been removed, he will certainly work with all the more diligence and concentration. That's in the last paragraph on page 5. Again, this idea that like companies don't care what happened in the past. You can't be like, I've been working here for 20 years and you owe me. They don't feel like they owe you anything. Do you ever notice how like if you want to quit a job, you're supposed to give like 2 weeks notice so that your boss can find a replacement? You ever notice how your boss is not required by law or politeness to give you 2 weeks notice before firing you? They can just fire you without warning. So like you're supposed to give 2 weeks notice so they can replace you. They don't have to give you 2 weeks notice. It doesn't matter what you've done in the past. Most bosses don't give a shit about you. They're just here to make money and they don't care about you personally. Um, okay, cool. This is going really well. So, really interesting moment on page 6. I want to talk about it a little bit. It's not a big deal, but when he finally he starts moving around, Gregor. For the first time that day, he began to feel all right with his body. Um, that's an interesting line. I like that. There's another moment later on in the next part when he again starts to feel more comfortable in his body. When he's climbing on the ceiling, he can kind of rock around on the ceiling. He's having a good time. Um, Gregor's life is pretty fucking miserable. All he does is think about work. He reads timetables. He's got a picture, making a frame for a picture of a girl in a magazine is all he's got for fun. His family doesn't seem like they treat him very well. The bosses are like ready to turn on him at any moment. Um, he it's interesting that he obviously look. I'm going to say something crazy. Obviously, it would be terrible to be turned into a giant cockroach. But like his life kind of sucked before. No one in the story stops to consider how it's kind of interesting that he's been turned into a giant cockroach. Like maybe his life would actually be better. He almost for a split second seems like he could be happier as a bug. Um, it could be a kind of magical, amazing transformation. It doesn't have to be necessarily horrific. Now I realize that's a crazy thing to say. Um, but I just feel like he has such a terrible life that it's possible that being turned into a bug is a reflection of that life. His family treats him like a bug, and his boss treats him like a bug, and so he becomes a bug. That's a kind of metaphor, right? They treat you like a bug, and so in Kafka's story, he is actually a bug because it's a metaphor for the way bosses treat the employees like fucking bugs they can just step on. But it's also possible to see some potential in being turned into a bug, and that there's something kind of cool about it. Um, I want to stop for a second and just talk about a different kind of metamorphosis. So there's an ancient book called so I don't know if you Google metamorphosis, you're going to get some confusing results because there's several things called the metamorphosis. Kafka's metamorphosis, a better translation would probably be the transformation, but Kafka's metamorphosis is the story we're reading. But like thousands of years ago in ancient Rome, there was a book called The Metamorphosis, and it was written by a poet named Ovid, and it's really one of the best books ever written. Um, you actually may know a lot of things from Ovid's Metamorphosis. It's one of those ancient books that pops up all the time. It's the source of, if you know any mythology from ancient Greece or ancient Rome, or you like fantasy novels where they use mythology from ancient Greece or ancient Rome, a lot of it's coming out of Ovid. Um, Ovid's book is called Metamorphosis because it collects hundreds of stories in which the gods transform people into animals or plants, sometimes as a reward, sometimes as punishment. Um, so it's got a lot of stories about guys trying to rape a woman, and she runs away from him, and she prays to the gods to be allowed to escape, and they turn her into a bird, and she flies away, and then they go, and then like mythology, they go, and that's where nightingales come from. I may have gotten that bird wrong. I don't remember the exact things. But the whole point is the book is about the gods transforming people into animals and plants, because it's a very common thing in Greek mythology for the gods to transform one creature into another. Um, so they might punish you by turning you into a cow. There's a lot of it's rape. There's a lot of rape in these stories. One of them is about a hunter with dogs who sees the goddess Diana naked, and she turns him into a deer as punishment, at which point the dogs that are with him hunt him down and tear him apart. There's a story about a woman who is in a weaving contest she thinks she can weave better than a goddess, and they have a weaving competition. And when the human being wins, the goddess is so angry she turns her into a spider, and that's where spiders come from because they weave little silken thread. It's that kind of mythology. Um, Kafka's Metamorphosis represents something really, and I'm sure, and there's a lot of Disney movies. I mean, it's the source of all. You've seen a million Disney movies where characters are turned into other creatures, right? Like the Frog Prince, where you got a prince, he's been turned into a frog, and he's got to get a kiss. The Beauty and the Beast, he's turned into a beast, he's got to turn back into a person with a magic kiss. I'm sure you guys can think of other things. Emperor's New Groove is a personal favorite of mine, where he gets turned into a llama. It's llama time. Oh, I love that movie so much. I'm a llama again. The point is that in these stories, there is a reason or a logic to it. That's not true in Kafka. What makes Kafka interesting is that is that all the other stories I can think of where someone is turned into something else, there's a reason. And it's like, oh, because you acted like such a beast, I have transformed you into a beast. Because you won a sewing competition and I'm jealous, I'm turning you into a spider. Um, I'm turning into a frog to punish you for blah, blah, blah. But here, he's been turned into a bug for absolutely no reason. It reflects the way a lot of modern life feels like it happens for no fucking reason. Um, sometimes, yeah, you know the expression like shit happens, like just shit happens. It's like there's no logic or reason. It's just like bad things keep happening, and it doesn't. Do we deserve all these terrible things? This story captures that kind of sense, that kind of a why is this happening to me kind of thing. That the only other place I can think of that you see a story like that is the book of Job in the Bible, where Job is punished by God for no reason. All right, cool. I'll see you guys in the next video.